So, welcome to the first Take Note chat. I am so excited to be here. This is Michele Christensen, and I'm here live with Jared DeCamp, and we'll be taking your questions and comments throughout this live video. You can use the comment function on YouTube to say hello or add your thoughts or questions at any point. And you can also use the hashtag takenotechat on social media for anything you want to share about this. So, Jared, if you could type take note, the hashtag into the chat area.
Yeah, drop it in there.
Okay, great. I host the OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group, and I use OneNote to keep just about everything in my life organized and moving forward. I'm a YouTube creator and blogger at One Noteworthy Life. So, Jared, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, thanks, Michele, and hello, everyone. Thanks so much for waiting for us. Glad to be here with you today, and looking forward to contributing to the community of OneNote fans. My name is Jared DeCamp, and I live on the web at classinoffice.com, and I'm also the organizer of the Learn OneNote conference.
All right. So I'm really excited to be live with you and Jared today. Jared and I wanted to start this live event as a way to have real-time conversation and interaction around topics that help us use technology to live and work better. You can always catch the replay and add your voice or comments later if you can't make it live. The idea for this live chat came about during a live event that Jared and I co-hosted in January. And one of the best parts of that live event was the interaction in the chat. Just that live conversation really gets ideas flowing, and it taps the collective knowledge of the group.
Yeah, the feedback we received is many of you want more opportunities to chat and interact and ask questions. So we hope that this is a good opportunity for you to do that. And a lot of the questions during that event in January were actually answered by other people that were attending the chat, not even necessarily by Michele or I. So if you have any answers to any questions that are presented or any resources that you want to share or feedback, please use that chat as much as you would like.
Yeah. Okay, so today's topic is pruning, and we're going to talk about first what pruning is, second, how we can apply it to workflows and technology, and then third, how we can apply this concept of pruning to our lives. So first of all, what is pruning? So as I'm describing this idea, go ahead and type your thoughts and questions into the chat box. So most of us have heard the word pruning in relation to gardening, but it has a really specific meaning. When you prune a plant or a tree, you cut away some of the branches so that the remaining branches can have more of the tree or plant's resources dedicated to them. And then those branches can become more productive in the sense that they create more flowers, fruit, or leaves. By cutting away some of the underperforming branches, you allow the plant or tree to focus all of its resources on fewer branches, and that in turn lets those branches yield more. And what I found interesting about this is that those branches that are left behind can yield not only more per branch, but more in total. So pruning can also help direct the shape of a tree or plant in a specific way, like you can fill a gap or create a hedge. What I think is important about this concept is that it's done with intention and in a really specific way. It's not the same as just randomly going in there and clipping parts away. So to apply this to work and life, we can picture getting rid of things that aren't working so we can give more attention to the things that are working or the things that we want to be working. So, Jared, do we have any questions or comments in the chat that we want to address right now?
No, everybody just wants to hear from us. They are silent right now.
So great. Okay. So now we're going to move to the second part of this and talk about how we can apply this idea to workflows and technology. So go ahead, Jared, take it away, and I will watch the chat.
Sure. Sometimes with technology, it's easy to allow for clutter because things aren't as tangible, maybe as like if you're in an unkept home or your home is untidy. Just like cleaning your home, digital pruning is a practice. It takes some systems and it takes regular maintenance to stay on top of it. Now, I just want to give two quick ideas for systems or regular maintenance that you can implement in your own OneNote strategies. The first one is just really quickly knowing the difference between an open notebook, a closed notebook, and a deleted notebook. You know, we'll talk about deleting notebooks in a minute, but I think it's important to remember that you don't have to have all of your notebooks open in your your OneNote account, you can have some notebooks that are closed. For instance, like I'll do a conference every year, and so my 2016 conference notebook is no longer open in my OneNote, so it's closed. I want to keep it for future reference, but I don't want to see it every single time I open OneNote. So be sure to be closing your notebooks. And then maybe another quick tip that I have is when you're getting physical items into digital form, if you're using like Office Lens to take a picture of a receipt or a document, this is a really good opportunity to practice that pruning that Michelle's talking about, because I think the tendency is sometimes to just add to OneNote because it expands to the size that you need. But really, like going back to the maintenance and systems and practices, you need to stay on top of it. And when you're putting in documents into OneNote, I think that's the best time and best opportunity to prune and keep your notebooks from bloating and getting too large. So those are the two quick tips that I have for you as it applies to OneNote and pruning.
Yeah, and I wanted to add just how I apply this concept to one of the ways I apply it to my OneNote account, which is that I keep a current notebook, which I call my bullet journal, in OneNote, and the pages cycle in and out. I add pages as I need them for days, weeks, months, projects, or etc. And then once the pages are out of date or no longer actively needed, I move them to an archive notebook. And so this keeps my current notebook really slim and focused.
That's cool. And Michelle, your archive notebook, is that always an open notebook that you have? Like it's open, it's just named archive? Is that what it is?
It's closed, but I do call it archive.
Okay.
Yeah. For the reason you said, that you don't want a bunch of open notebooks laying around. So it is closed because I rarely need to go back to those archives.
Got it. Cool.
Okay. So let's take a quick pause for questions. I don't see any questions, so good.
All right. Well, so the truth is that I don't always start my notebooks perfectly. Sometimes I will open two separate notebooks on accident that like have a lot of carryover between them, and I didn't actually need to create two separate notebooks. Or maybe I'll even create a notebook on my OneNote 2016 desktop, and then I forget about it. And then when I go to the OneNote Windows 10, I open it. I create a new notebook rather than opening that existing notebook. And so anyways, then I have duplicates, and I sometimes need to delete a notebook. So make sure that when you're just really clear on the closing versus deleting of a notebook, you need to go into OneDrive where your notebook should be saved and delete that file there rather than just closing it in your OneNote like browser. So my goal is always to delete as much as possible. I'm not one to save many notebooks. Just to give you an idea of behind the scenes, right now I probably have about 7 to 10 notebooks that are open, and that's usually what I have on a consistent basis. And then I might have maybe 20 to 30 additional notebooks that are closed and just kind of hanging out on my OneDrive account.
Yeah, that sounds like a good number, because 7 to 10 is really manageable. Like you can kind of keep that number of things kind of in your brain. Like they say the human brain can hold about 7 things at a time. So right. I like that you have like the sort of smaller number of active ones, and then the bulk of them are closed and kind of not in your current view.
Right.
So let's take a quick check and see if we have any questions. Yeah, I don't see any questions. Okay. Hopefully people are able to actually put a question in. So if someone could just say, just add one comment to let us know you can actually make comments, because we haven't had one in a few minutes. And I want to make sure that's not a tech issue. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move on to, I think that concludes all of our stuff for part 2. So now we're going to move on to part 3, which is how to apply this concept of pruning to life and work. So for me, I've adopted pruning as my theme for 2018. Once I got my planning and organizing process really under control and into OneNote, I felt really empowered to take on a ton of new projects. And it's kind of like being at a buffet when you're really hungry and everything looks so good that you take way too much food. And at any given time, I had like several courses in progress, several business improvement projects going on, home improvement projects, and dozens of small tasks in some state of doneness. And I felt like I was spending way too much time tracking, migrating, juggling, switching gears, and not enough time actually doing things that I wanted to get done. And I realized that I would spend a lot of time managing things and not actually doing them. And so I started thinking about this idea that if I could start doing less at a time, things would actually get done faster, and that I would spend less time managing my stuff and feel less scattered. So I'm focusing on pruning things down in this way and not taking on new things until something drops off my plate. And so one of the main things I'm doing is shrinking my current inventory of open tasks and projects. So I'm trying not to add anything new until something, is definitively done and kind of out of my consciousness. I want fewer total things on my plate and more time and mental space for each thing, and fewer time spent tracking all the open items and switching gears.
I like how you continue to self-reflect and improve on your life in your OneNote use, of course, and just in general with the pruning concept that you're trying to apply. I think that's cool. I mean, pruning for me is something that I continue to slowly work on and improve, and I know that I continue to work on it. When I think about pruning, I think back to some of the influence that I've heard on The Minimalists. It's a podcast and a movie and a blog, and they talk about the concept of minimalism and just like living with less. And I find that I enjoy trying to bring that concept into the digital world. And the more that I bring it into the digital world, it helps me to increase my clarity and my focus in with my notes, with my research, and with my plans that matter. So those are kind of like the influences that motivate me in my planning.
Yeah, and I think minimalism is not an absolute. It's just sort of a mindset and a thought. But I do think it's a really great thing to think about. Like when you take something into your life, whether it's a new hobby or a physical object or whatever, it's important to think about what that's displacing.
Yeah.
But, it was interesting. You were talking about sort of continuing to evolve and things like that. And the way this idea of pruning came about is my theme for last year, 2017, was completion. And even at the beginning of 2017, I recognized that I had too much on my plate, and I was really good at tracking things and not having them drop off and lose things, but I wasn't finishing them. And so that was how this sort of the load just grew and grew, because instead of being really discriminating and thinking, okay, if I'm going to take something else on and start working on it, do I have space for it and time for it? And so when I kind of reflected on the end of 2017, I realized that I hadn't really completed a whole lot of stuff. I'm really good at tracking, but I hadn't really completed things. And so that's why I decided to work on actively shrinking the inventory of things that I can work on at one time.
And when you're saying pruning and shrinking, are you thinking of on a daily basis, a weekly basis, for the entire year? I'm imagining that you have some sort of thoughts as to how many long-term projects you're working on at the same time, how many things you want to do in a given day. How do you think about those things?
I don't have too many hard and fast rules, except that and I'm working on that. I would like to have some hard limits just to keep me, because obviously my tendency is to overexpand. So I would like to put those into place, but I'm trying to just not take on new home projects, for example, until something else is off my plate. So I'm making more use of what we call in the Getting Things Done, or GTD system. Maybe you could type that into chat, Jared, Getting Things Done. Yeah. That's a book and productivity system. They talk about the concept of a someday or maybe list, and that's just sort of a list you keep in the background of things you might want to get to someday. And so I'm trying to be more disciplined with putting things on the someday list if I can't actively focus and work on them now. And then in terms of my daily tasks, when we were working on the planning masterclass, Jared, we talked about some of the planners that people use and things like that, and how your planner can shape the way you think. And that a light bulb clicked for me, which is that if I created my daily page in a way that would force me to winnow my task list down, that maybe it would help. So I am working with a daily template now that has a daily task list, and it says no more than 10 items.
Okay.
Because once you finish all your routines and your work and things like that, all the sort of things we have to do just on a daily basis, there's not that much discretionary time to work on tasks. So I thought if I can really force myself to squeeze that into 10, that would help. So I am working on that. Is one thing I'm doing.
That's cool. Yeah, I know that one thing I do is, which I learned from you, was to at the end of the day transfer my tasks that I haven't completed onto like the next day or in the future, and I use that as an opportunity to do another layer of pruning. And I say, kind of ask myself, like, do I really need to do this, or can I delegate it, or does it not need to be done, or can it maybe be simplified in some way? I found that to be helpful for me. But I put getting things done in the chat.
Okay.
And I saw 2 questions come.
All right.
Maybe we can answer these, and if anybody else has any other questions, I'm going to answer those, and then I'll kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
So Jim's asked, when will we be able to use Edge browser to do linking to websites and with linked notes? I'm sorry, Jim. I personally do not know like the development timeline. We're not associated with OneNote or Microsoft officially in any way, so I don't know the timeline on that. I don't know, Michelle, you've heard of anything?
No, I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that either.
I know a good source is on Twitter. If you do the @OneNote and ask questions like that, I know that the OneNote team is really good at responding. So that's probably the best way to go about that. Sorry about that, Jim. And Laurel, do you want to read that one, Michelle, and see what?
Okay. So this is, once in a while I need to print a specific note to paper. Anyone have a simple working method to add a template to the infinite canvas to show the print preview from multiple letter pages in a row? I don't really ever print my OneNote pages to paper. Do you, Jared?
I do not.
So sorry about that.
We were asking for questions the whole time, and then we get 2 at the end.
And we don't know the answer to either. Oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, we don't have all the answers. So if anybody else has some suggestions, please share them now.
Yeah. And that is a good resource, Jared. They do answer questions. And, there's a place in OneNote, I don't know where it is, but I have seen it, where you can add feedback. So they take, user requests and stuff. So that might be a good thing to explore too. I think it might be on the Microsoft forums.
Okay.
So
cool. And then I know, I'm trying to think through the question that Loyal asked. So OneNote 2016, the desktop version, I know that you can change in the file options, you can change whether or not a page is printed all on the same OneNote page. So like if you try and print a PDF that's 10 pages long, sometimes, depending on what option is selected, it'll print all 10 pages on the same OneNote page, or you can do file options and change that setting to be just having a new page in OneNote created for each new PDF page. Does that make sense? Does that follow, Michelle?
Okay. So Lowell actually added the cheat I use is to put 6 repetitions of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in a text box at the top of the page. The right side of the text box is the right margin. Oh, okay. A text box at the top of the page.
Michelle, I think your browser.
Yeah, my cursor's doing something funny, so I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure exactly what I am doing to make that happen. So, all right. Well, you know what? We're about ready to wrap up anyway. Okay. So, we got one comment that says, "Thank you, guys." Okay, so I think that's it for today. So I hope you've enjoyed the first Take Note chat. Thank you so much for your patience with our tech issues. I will try and do better next time. So if you're watching on YouTube, I would love it if you'd hit the thumbs up button so we know you liked this video. And if you want to attend future Take Note Chat sessions, you can subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And you can find out how to get in touch with me and get a link to the OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group in the description of this video.
Great. And my contact information will be in the description below as well. One of the best ways to get in contact with me is on Twitter at Jared_DeCamp. And be sure to add the next Take Note Chat to your calendar. We're going to do one each month, and the next chat will be on March 20th, 2018 at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And in the next chat, we're going to be talking about how you can integrate OneNote with Outlook. So I think it'll be a good topic, and hope to help you again as much as possible. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I'm looking forward to learning about Outlook because I don't actually use it much. So I'm really stoked for that. And the replay for this chat will stay live on the link that you are watching live. So thanks a lot. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye. Thanks, guys.